Welcome to the show today, Nancy. I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot of valuable information because we've been chatting for a little bit already. So, can you please share a little bit about yourself?
Great. Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you very much for having me on your show as well. I know we had a little chat which could have gone on for ages. Yeah, no, I am born and bred in Canada, very near where you are, actually. But however, I do reside now in the UK for the past 25 years. Business-wise, I'm an international business consultant and intellectual property law specialist. I have my own business consultancy firm, which is the Business Mission, and I've got a book coming out, which is launching at the end of 2024. I enjoy living in the UK. My partner is English as well, and like I said, I've been here for 25 years. I really enjoy learning. I am doing a master's, it's my third one, and it's all at the University of London. So I've taken advantage of the education system in the UK while I've been here as well.
Well, that's fantastic. So let's go back a little bit. And what made you choose to go to London, or why did you pick London?
Well, it was kind of by accident. I don't want to say by accident is a good word, but I left Canada and I went traveling around the world for about 3 years. I think I was just bound for other countries than Canada. Although I love Canada and it is, my roots are there, and my best friend, she lives in Canada still. But I just wanted to venture the world. I left when I was 22 and jumped on a get on ticket, went to Australia for a year and a half, and then went to Southeast Asia for almost a year as well. And then I met an English person who became my partner, not my present partner, but somebody I was dating back there. And he said, "Oh, come to England." So, that's kind of where I landed. And, that's how I never went back.
Well, and I can kind of understand that because I remember myself when I was a teenager. It must have been one of those cold winter Canadian days, and I was probably around 16 years old because I was in high school. I think probably about grade 11. And we were outside, and I remember saying to my friends, I'm like, I think I've been switched at birth. And they said, "What? Your parents aren't your parents?" I said, "Well, not literally." I said, "But I just have this feeling like I'm not supposed to live in Canada for my entire life. Like I just had that as a teenager." So I can kind of understand that knowing of, maybe not meant to be in one place forever.
Yeah, I had a lovely childhood, and we did a lot of winter sports. And my dad was a very avid traveler, so throughout my childhood, we went to places like Hawaii, and we went, all over San Francisco. And he just liked to travel quite a bit. I remember I wasn't on the trip with him, but he went to Alaska and he recorded 80 hours of the road. He was
Wow.
traveling on, but they love to travel. So I think it
Mm.
just I do like to travel a bit, and I like different cultures as well, and I like meeting people from different cultures because I think you just learn more. When Canadians, I kind of know them already because I'm from there. But when you go to different countries, you learn about different cultures, and I'm all for that.
Right. And it's not the same. It's never the same as what you can read in a book or a magazine, or you can watch a video online and things look great, but there's nothing that's the same as actually standing in that square or in front of that building or on top of that tower, whatever it may be, and just the energy of that country, that city, and of course the food. Yes, we can get all kinds of food, whether it's here where I'm at right now in Calgary or where you are in London. We can get all kinds of food, but it's not the same. Like, I'm sorry, their Italian food does not taste as good as it does in Italy.
I can definitely agree with you. I do miss a lot of the Canadian food, and actually, a friend of mine came to visit me, and I told her, "Can you bring the Kraft peanut butter because we don't have that here, and I love it so much." And she also brought cheesies as well. um,
Okay.
but yeah, and I was very very lucky because I have a friend of mine who set up a Canadian van that sells
Mhm.
poutine. So I do manage to get that
Nice.
in the UK here. But yes, it's very very different. I do remember actually when I left Canada, like the travel agent was saying, like I had this vision of the UK that everybody drove a Mini Cooper, and there was the pavement was very
Mhm.
high compared to the road because of the rain.
Mhm.
But boy, was I surprised when I got here that there was nothing like that, and there were lots of roundabouts as well, which
Oh,
I
yes.
found very intriguing because we don't really have those many in Canada.
Right, right. They're starting now to bring in some more of the roundabouts, but definitely not like the UK. And I've driven in the UK as well, and it's very strange for me to be driving on the left side of the road,
Mm.
everything on the left. So I like even when I turn right, I'm saying in my head, turn right, keep left, turn right, keep left, turn right, just because it is one of those things to adjust to. And I'm sure over the years you've found many things that are different and you just adjust to and it becomes normal over time.
Yes, I have to say the driving thing because there was many times I just went into the other, passenger side, which was the steering wheel, and thought, no, this doesn't make sense. But weirdly now, like if I go to another country, I can't remember the last place. I think I went to Switzerland and they were driving on the other side. I got a little bit
Mhm.
freaked out because it was just like it didn't. I was like, why are you driving on that side of the road? Because I'm so immune to driving on this side of the road now. So
Mm.
it's more, over 25 years, you just sort of adapt to it, don't you?
Yeah, it's normal for you now to be
Mm.
on the left side as opposed to the right side.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so I know it's been a long time and there's probably some procedures and things that have changed, but what when you first came, what type of visa or residency did you get and how did that process work for you?
Well, actually, I had dual citizenship. So I
Okay.
didn't have to do the visa thing. And I have a German passport. I've got a couple other ones, but I've got the Canadian one. And so
Mm.
Germany was part of the EU when I landed here. So it was very easy for me. Just recently, when the UK separated, I had
Hmm.
to apply for indefinite remain. So
Okay.
yeah, even after 20 years of being here and running businesses and, paying taxes and,
Hmm.
those sort of things, I still had to show documentation for the last 10 years to the UK government board of this settlement scheme, because now Germany is no longer or sorry, UK is no longer part of the EU. So yeah, I have an indefinite to remain here.
Okay. And so then once you're married, are you going to apply for citizenship or are you going to just stay with that indefinite right
Yeah,
now? I
I
haven't heard
mean,
of the indefinite. So I knew that there was going to be something because um I also live in Spain and so I know I have friends from the UK that live in Spain and then when Brexit happened they had a certain amount of time that they had to file documents and paperwork to get what they called a TIA. It's just a government ID form saying that they've kind of, as we would say in Canada, we're grandfathered in. It was like, okay, well, you've been here for this long. You're allowed to stay, even though Brexit has happened. You don't have to go through the whole process again. But those who didn't have to basically start all over.
oh yeah, yeah. No, it's been a very smooth transaction for me actually. So it was just, first of all, it was I had to apply for the settlement scheme.
Hmm.
And then after that process, then it was the indefinite to remain scheme, which now leaves me forever staying here. I mean,
Okay.
I am getting married in September and he is from England, so I could, I guess so. But then I just think, why go through the quiz? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm imagining the quiz is something like, how long does the Queen's Guard sit on their horse for? I have no clue. But, I would probably not be very good at answering all those questions because they do ask you a lot of questions about the UK or England. I'm assuming. I mean, but I've been very fortunate that I have remained. I've got settlement scheme indefinite, so that's it really. I don't really wouldn't even need. I've got residency, so I don't
Right.
really need citizenship. So, and I'm
Right.
happy
No,
to still
that's
keep
good.
Canadian citizenship behind me anyway. So there's a lot of perks with that.
Right, right. And honestly, if I had to even if I had to do the test that they have to do for Canadian res
Yeah.
citizenship, I'm like, I don't even know what kind of questions they ask, and I'm not even sure how well, I don't myself for sure, but also how many other Canadians would pass a lot of our own countries' tests that they have.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit like doing your driver's license, and then they say to you, okay, you got to do the driver's license again in 5 years, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. Do you know what I mean? Because you've just been really comfortable. As well in Canada, when I was in Canada, I always thought, oh, I can travel Canada whenever I want. And actually, I probably could have seen more of Canada while I was there, but yeah, I've seen much more of England and the European Union than I have
Mhm.
seen of Canada, unfortunately. So yeah.
That's the one thing because I spent almost 5 years living in Costa Rica. And
Oh.
part of it was timing. My daughter was there and she was going to school, so I didn't have the freedom that I have now because she's an adult and she lives here in Canada. Um, and I didn't really see as much of Costa Rica as I wished I would have. Because I always thought, oh, I can go later. She's in school during the week and we can go later. And then I decided it was time for me to leave. And so I didn't see as much. So being in Spain, though, I've definitely made sure that I've traveled around more. And I mean, Spain is still a large country and there's so much to see there. But I now also have a place in Montenegro and I'm not there very much, but part of me is still, I need to see more because I haven't, like people ask, oh, have you been here? Have you been here? And I'm like, no, no, because when I go, I'm only there for a few months and I've
Mm,
usually been traveling. So I'm just like, I just need to want to chill and relax. And I don't think of, oh, now I need to visit more of the country, but it's easy to kind of fall into that a little bit of a trap of, oh, well, we live here. Oh, there's next week. Oh, next week I
mm,
can go locally. I'm going to go, oh, next month I'm going to go to another country, especially within Europe because it's so close together and it's so cheap to travel within the
mm.
EU.
And ironically, I travel with my German passport and I jump all the queues now because the UK separated, they go into
Hmm.
really long queues. But yeah, I agree with you. Years ago, I had a company which was did global events worldwide. And I would travel 3 or 4 countries in 3 or 4 weeks. And when I got home, I just thought, I don't want to travel anymore. I just want to sleep, So yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think for the listeners who are in Europe, they understand for Canadians it's very expensive to travel, but it's not once you're in Europe, it's so inexpensive. I remember the first time I was there. I used to do a lot of house and pet sitting, and I still do that occasionally. It's a great way to travel. And I was in England. I don't recall exactly what town or city I was in, and I was looking, and there was somewhere, I think it was maybe Prague to Budapest or something was 17 euro.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
going back about 6 or 7 years now, but prices are a little bit more than that, but there's still some good
Very
deals. And I
much,
thought,
yeah.
how can I not go? It's not,
Yeah.
should I go? Or it's like, how can I not? Like at this price, it's nothing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the prices have gone up now since
Mhm.
COVID,
Yes.
obviously, to recoup. But yeah, I mean, you could fly German wings for 29 euros or whatever pounds to get to anywhere in Germany. So yeah, it is very easy. I mean, even now, like you could drive and you'd be somewhere else in Europe. You could drive to France. You go on the
Mm,
Eurostar in 2 hours, you're in France. So yeah, I do really enjoy the aspect of living here because you can just jump on a plane and you'll
mm.
be in Spain where it's like 360 degrees of different weather compared to rainy England. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it is really nice. And so I know that we were when we were talking a little bit earlier, you're saying that England may not be forever, which is fine because I'm the type I never say anything is forever because who knows, right? Who knows. So if not, what are some other countries or places that you enjoy to go to or that you would consider maybe could be home or second home?
Yeah, no, I've been very grateful for what England has given me
Mhm.
while I've stayed here. I've done a lot of degrees at the University of London. I've
Mhm.
done a lot of educational things here, and I've had amazing, clients in the UK. But it's a little bit challenging because of the weather. It rains quite a
Mhm.
bit, but I have very green trees, so I guess you have to fight that a bit. But and the cost of living is definitely going up because
Mhm.
again, I sort of tapped in before, but with COVID it's very England has become very expensive to live in, so ideally I'd love to go to Spain later in life when I
Mhm.
still got some things to do here, but definitely Spain is my calling. I do travel to Spain, try to at least once or twice a year, and I just love it because I love the weather. um, I've not worked in Spain or set up a business or anything like that, so I need to
Oh, don't.
investigate that a little bit more. But
I'm
probably I
for
would be.
anybody's listening, I'm shaking my head. Don't
Oh
do
no,
that.
no, no,
It's
no, no.
not, it's because I help people with diversification internationally and stuff too. And Spain is not the ideal country to be setting up a business and corporate taxes and things like that. It's
Oh
not
yes,
very
yes.
friendly. My recommendation would be to look at other more tax-friendly countries where you can then have your corporation there in another tax-friendly country, but you could still live in Spain because you could have, and this is for anybody that's listening, you could have a corporation in a tax-friendly country. And I just say tax-friendly because it depends on the type of work that you do and things, but there's zero tax countries. There's several countries that have under 10% corporate tax. And
Is one of
then
them Geneva, Switzerland, I think, isn't it?
hmm And there's like Montenegro is 9.5% corporate tax. Cyprus is quite low. So, and you want to look into all of them because there's pros and cons to depending upon the type of business that a person has. But if you set that up, like for you, because you have a German citizenship, you can freely move very easily within the
Mhm.
EU. For somebody maybe like me from Canada or other listeners from the US, having that corporation is great because then you pay lower taxes and then you still pay yourself. So you'd still have to say, like if we're talking about Spain, you still have to pay personal tax in Spain, but you can pay yourself whatever money that you need to live in Spain. And depending upon the type of visas and things, it's different amounts, but you're saving a lot of money because you'd only be paying, let's say, 10% corporate tax if you're in another country, as opposed to 23, 25, 27%
Maybe I'll
corporate
just go
tax
there and
in
retire.
Spain.
Maybe I'll just go there and retire because it sounds
And
too
you
complicated.
could do that as well, but it's just because a lot of times people that I talk to and they think that, well, if I live in this country, I have to have my company in this country.
No,
But
no,
that's
no.
not a good idea. You actually should have your company in a separate country for asset protection, tax purposes, and a number of reasons. But and obviously, it's still legal. You're still paying those taxes for that corporation in that country, wherever it may be, and you're still paying your personal taxes in the country that you live in, but you can pay yourself more or less depending upon where you're at. And if you're paying your corporate taxes, why give away,
Oh yeah.
20% or 30% if you can do 10%?
Yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah. I think probably Spain will be a retirement and I'll go there to
Hmm.
write and I'll keep, my UK address and
Hmm.
maybe some, but definitely for tax information, I'll come to you.
Okay.
Very knowledgeable on it. Well done.
Yeah, well, I've lived in four different countries and I've had businesses in different countries and residencies and citizenships and so I help people diversify globally. And it doesn't necessarily mean that for some people that you have to move countries. I just work with a lot of people who want to move and some of them just want to move for retirement. They just want a better quality of life, better weather, lower cost of living. And then I have other people that say, I don't mind paying more taxes because I want to live in Italy. and I don't care. And I want to live there. And I know I may be paying more. I mean, it depends on where they're at. But then I've got healthcare and I've got this, and I'm in a country where I want to be, and I don't care, that's where I want to be. And so, everybody's a little bit different. And so part of the reason why I love this podcast, and I talk to people, it's like, well, why did you move? What brought you there? Kind of what do you like about it? What do you don't like? Because there's no perfect country in the world. Like I've
No.
lived in lots, and there's fabulous things that I love about all of the countries, but there's always like some little things.
Yeah.
Example, winter in Canada. Hate it. Hate it. That's why I'm not like, I don't want to
Why
be here
do
in
you?
winter. Hate it.
Okay,
No,
Sally,
thank
why
you.
do you hate winter in Canada?
Minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 30 degrees Celsius. And this year, before I got here,
Yes.
they did have about a week in Calgary, the city that I'm from, was
Yeah.
I think with the
Minus
wind chill was
38.
close to minus 50
Yeah.
degrees Celsius. No, thank you. Don't want it.
When I
So,
try to tell people in the UK, like if we get a litit bit snow in the UK, everything stops. And
mhm,
I'm thinking, no, this is just a little bit of snow, it will melt, you know. But there's this sort of ongoing joke when people say, oh, where are you from? And I say, oh, I'm from Canada. And they're like, well, you should be used to this weather. I'm like, that's why I'm not there anymore. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause
exactly.
it's so cold. Like, and I don't like the cold anyway. If it's cold here, it's a very different cold here, actually. It's
Mhm.
the cold in Canada, I think, is more dry. So
Yes,
dry.
definitely.
Here is a very damp cold. So it
Mhm.
goes
And
in your bones and you just
yes,
can't seem to warm up. But
no.
yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons I left Canada because it's just, especially, I'm close to where you are in Edmonton and you're
Mhm.
in we both know how cold, like literally your eyelashes will freeze.
Yes, it's true. And so when I talk to people too, when it's not like I love Canada. If Canada was summer all year round, chances are
Hmm.
I probably wouldn't have left because it's beautiful, especially where I'm at, close to the Rocky Mountains, like love it. But as I was saying before, it's like there is no perfect place, and things that I like about a country or a city, you may think, oh no, that's not for me. Like some people don't like hot. As I'm getting older, I'm not liking hot as much, but I still always like to be really warm. I hate cold, but I have friends that
Hmm.
love the cold. They love skiing, snowboard, all those outdoor sports. And I'm thinking, winter, no, where's the beach? And it's
Yeah.
finding those things that we really like. Like I love Barcelona because it's a walkable city. I don't need a car. It's great. I walk everywhere. There's the metro, there's the bike system. There's so much. We're in Canada. You pretty much need to
It's
have a
very
car.
isolating. Yeah, you definitely need a car. I mean, I have to say, like growing up in Canada, it was very safe.
Hmm.
Like I never saw war-torn situations or there weren't bombs going off. And that's really Canada's always a very neutral country. Whenever I say I'm from Canada, everyone says, "Oh, that's such a lovely country. I went there a couple of years ago through the mountains." And I feel very proud that I've come from a country that, has a great reputation and people enjoy visiting there.
Hmm.
And we're always very neutral, I think, in politics and government and those kind of things. So I feel very proud about that, and we're very spread out. If you've ever
Yes.
been to the UK, don't quote me on this, but I think we're at about 70 million people in this small little area. And I think in London, it's about 7 million in London. And I do recall my father once came over. This was years ago, and I took him to Oxford Street, and he's like, "Why are there so many people?" And I'm like, "They all live here." And it's crazy. I mean, the UK is very multicultural, so you meet a lot of different cultures in the UK, and it's expanding. More and more people are coming to the UK because it's sort of an open freedom in this country, the same that I experienced in Canada. So I have been very blessed that the countries I've been in have been, welcoming, and also, there hasn't been any turmoil or war directly in the country itself.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's true to be lucky Like I often say to people, and some people who are listening probably won't really like what I'm about to say, but it's how I feel. Like absolutely, I was lucky to be born in Canada. But other than that, nothing else in my life is luck. Like it's all, I've worked hard. I've designed my life to have the lifestyle I've had. It has not been easy. Sure, also being born in Canada, the luck, yeah, maybe it's easier than some other countries, but I also know that there's many homeless people in Canada.
Oh yeah, I mean
And
people
so
really don't
there's
know
also
that.
the
Yeah.
part of, absolutely lucky to be born in Canada, but then it's just because I'm born there, it's not a golden platter. Like it made a lot of things a lot easier than many other countries, absolutely. But we still, each individually as a person, we still need to make certain choices. We still need to do certain things. We still need to, and those things, whatever the life that you want to have, those we still need to do what it takes to make those things happen.
Oh,
Because I've
absolutely.
had people like, oh, you're so lucky, you've traveled so much, you've lived in all these places. And I'm like, I'm not lucky because of that. I'm lucky because I was born in Canada, which made some of those things easier. But I still work hard. I do lots. I miss out on a lot of things with my friends and family back in Canada. So it's not just because I was born in Canada, everything is easily handed to me.
No, you have to create opportunities.
Hmm.
It doesn't, I mean, yes, there are some countries like South Africa and Ethiopia that people have more challenging time. I do understand
Hmm.
that, but I try not
Absolutely.
to compare my journey with other people because, I remember I went to South Africa and I went to a township and, it's a very, run down place. And there was a man and, he lived in a shack and he was very, very happy. And sometimes you can have all the wealth in the world and not be happy. And then in addition, he was saying, well, I've given all my money for my daughter to go to university. So I'm really blessed with God. So it's good not to compare because everybody
Mm-hmm.
has their own journey in life, no matter what country you're in. And, I do believe that when you take luck and collide it with opportunity, then that is what created. But you've got to go out and make that opportunity no matter where you are. Because you
That's
read
right.
some stories of people who are from, Oprah Winfrey from extreme poverty.
Hmm.
She made her opportunities and created her opportunities to get where she is. So yes, Canada has been quite a neutral country to get opportunities, but you created those opportunities to get where you wanted to go in life.
Hmm. And I think too, also people need to think, I think society as a whole, we need to kind of redefine what is success. And it shouldn't even have a single definition because it should be something along the lines of, what I want, what makes me happy, what fulfills me, that is success. And for all the billions of people in the world, success, being successful and happy and fulfilled is going to be very different. As you said, we know of, we've heard stories in the news of super famous people, lots of money, and they're addicted to drugs, they commit suicide, things like that. So it's not that you have to be rich and famous or rich and or famous to be successful, and that's what's going to make you happy, because we see that that actually doesn't happen. And when anybody reads a lot of these magazines, things that do like the happiness index of the happiest countries, they generally aren't the most financially successful countries, like first world countries. They are other ones where they don't have as much and they are the happier ones.
Yes, I think as I'm growing further in my life and aging, I'm still feeling young, but
Yes.
I just feel like less is more, and I
Hmm.
feel like I just want contentment in my life, and nothing else kind of matters anymore. And, I've got a book coming out, and I'm hoping that other people will read the book and they will get the energy from the book to help them. But I think, my purpose in life is to leave a legacy, no matter where I am in the world, that will help other people succeed. And successfulness is, your own right. I did read a quote somewhere that said, oh, we don't need any more successful people. We need healers and spiritual people.
Mm.
And I thought, but they're successful too. So it's a very odd, that was a very odd quote for me because they're successful in their own right. So it's a funny statement, how to be
Mhm.
successful. As long as you're content and you have done the things in your life and you're a good person, you're a kind person, then that's really successful on its own.
Right. Right. And for some it could be climbing that corporate ladder, and for others it's raising a healthy family. And
Exactly.
those are both great, great things. So I know that you had mentioned that you have your book coming out, and it comes out in December. How much information about your book are you willing to reveal today?
Well, I think when this interview goes live, the cover will be revealed. And so, I could probably discuss a bit more now because by this time, people will know about the book. So it is a book about how to start a business. And it's a really great book because you can read this book anywhere in the world. Okay. Because it really is a foundational guide to start a business. And I wrote it with analogies in layman's terms. So it's a really easy way to understand it. It is written with UK language, British language. But I think what's really interesting about my book, when I started speaking to some editors and I said, well, I like this book to be able for people in America to read it, English people, everybody in the world to read it. Well, you'd have to change the language. And I thought, but everybody really understands it, whether there's a Z or an S. I just don't get that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can understand
Hmm.
translating. I did it into Spanish or,
Of course.
into German or something like that. But when it comes to English language, if it is presented in a way. So, yeah, so this book hopefully will be, able to help anyone globally set up a business no matter where they are in the world.
Excellent. Sounds very, very interesting. And that can definitely help people, because a lot of times when I'm talking with people and they say, I want to move abroad, or I'm thinking about moving abroad, but I don't know what I'll do for work. And
Mm.
there's a number of things, and it could be starting online businesses, or it could be getting a job, and that all comes down to what a person wants, the type of visa, residency, kind of a number of things. And so with your book, does it kind of focus on all of those types of businesses, or is it more brick and mortar, more online?
It's a very generic book. So I think like one of the things in the chapter is starting a business is like deciding to have a baby. Okay, so you could have a baby in Spain, you could have a baby in Africa, you could have a baby in Canada, you could have a baby in UK. But the format of having a baby is, the 9 months. And then when the baby comes out, you have to feed it every 2 hours. And that's the same like starting a business. At the initial stages of the business, you can't expect that the baby in month one is going to make you money. You have to expect that this baby takes about 2 years or a little under 2 years to stand, and everybody's going to be really excited about your idea. That's like when you give birth to the baby, but then after that they walk away because they don't want to hear the baby cry anymore. You know what I mean? So you have to be prepared that it can be quite a solo journey. But if
Hmm.
you put the correct structure in the baby, no matter where you are in the world, the baby can stand by year 3. And then you think, okay, I want other players to come in now. So the baby goes to nursery, and then there's the nursery person, then and then kindergarten, and that's how one of the 32 chapters of my book talks about starting a business. But yeah, and also the birth certificate, which is the trademark. So that's how I put it. It's like, this baby needs a birth certificate, and your business needs a name, but you need to have it certified so that not other people will, take it and use it, and you'll get infringement issues. So yeah, so the book is filled with all those wonderful things, brand marketing, those sort of things. And I like to use analogies because I think people can really relate to that. Um, but when you get to the point where the business is walking and making money, then you need to register it, you see.
Mm.
Before the business makes money, it's just an idea and you're nurturing the idea. With many
Right.
of my clients, I say to them when we work together, I say, okay, before we work, you need to go and get yourself a pot and a soil and a seed. And as we do this business plan or as we do this marketing strategy, I want you to, as you are writing your plan, to water that plant. And you will see then how it grows with your strategies. And it's a very good analogy because it's the consistency of watering the plant every day, 2, 4, 6. The same with business sort of thing.
Right. And that makes sense because when we see it, we can see like bits of growth where even with ourselves, it's like, I've been doing this and I've been posting to social every day or working on my book paragraph by paragraph and throwing some of it out. It's like I'm not getting anywhere. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere or there's not much momentum moving. But if you have that plant, we see that little bits. It sprouts, it's doing stuff, and we can see little bit that maybe we don't see within ourselves or within our business.
Yes, I think a lot of people go into business with a short-term mentality. I
Hmm.
need it right now. I need this child to walk right now. And a long-term mentality is much better because there's more structure to that. But you have to really, when I go into a business, I always go in with appreciation. Like I think, wow, I have the strength to do this rather than have expectations. And then, just again, the child analogy, if you use that analogy and say, okay, I'll just give him birth to this idea. I realistically can't think that this child is going to walk at 1 month. Give me a break. So I'll just spend the time helping it structure it.
Right.
Yes, there are prodigies out there. I'm not saying every child, maybe a child can play piano at 9 months. That's brilliant, but that's a very 1 in 100. So most businesses do take a time to lay the structure and don't expect it to make money right away for you because, you can't say to the child, go out and make me money in 9 months. It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
Right. And I think that is one of the downfalls of the internet. Like I love it. It's allowed me to
Mm.
have the life that I have. But we do hear the stories or see things and be like, oh, so and so makes X amount of money for a single post on Instagram. I want to be an Instagram person. I want to be a YouTube person. But I think a lot of times too, and it was a little bit different many years ago when those platforms first came out. But I think a lot of people also don't realize a lot of the big names and the people who do make a lot have a team behind them. We may see one person, but they're not the ones that are doing all let's say if it's a podcast, all the reach out to all the clients or potential podcast guests, booking everything, arranging stuff, setting things up. Like there's a team of people behind each of those successful podcast guests. Same with a lot of the Instagram. I used to do a lot of travel writing and I would watch a lot of Instagram travel and I knew that it wasn't just one person that was doing it. They had a team behind them. They started out as one. We always start out as one and then potentially grow, but it's very rare, as you said, for that prodigy, that one that just goes viral. It's a big hit, but we've also seen it where one thing might go viral, one thing might be a big hit. They get maybe a few more videos or things that are good, and then it stops.
Yes, that's the short-term thing I was saying to you. But
Hmm.
also, I had a young man come to me looking for some investment because we have an investment side to the business, and his idea said, "Well, my idea is like Jeff Bezos. He's £1 million, $1 million. I know that my model work." I said, I appreciate that you are inspired by him, but you cannot compare him. He started out I don't know how many years ago, and it was in some little garage is his parents' house. Like, that's another thing I say to a lot of my young clients is they don't understand that you know what if you need to be the rags to riches story because
Mm.
how you can connect to your audience. If you look at someone on Instagram and you think, oh, they've got like 100 million followers, um, and they just burn out. But it's
Yes.
better to I know I was looking at the woman who started the Spats, the underwear line, and there
Oh,
was a
yes.
yeah, there was a picture of her, and she was lying in all these bags of her spats that she had put in, postal bags to ship out. And it was wonderful because, like, you have to start somewhere. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's at the bottom. And then now she has a multi-million-dollar empire. And the rags to riches story is so wonderful if you take your audience on that journey because it shows the work you've done. If you just take the helicopter to the top of the mountain, there's no, I don't find that rewarding. I'd rather
Right.
hike up the mountain, show people,
Mhm.
look how much hard work I've done to get to where I am, and I value it, and I feel rewarded for all the work that I have achieved. But yeah, I think social media is really, especially for the young people, is very hard because they see these people have lots of things and they don't see the backstory to how
Right.
they got there, So
And
yeah.
the struggles, and those struggles are what makes us learn. If we use like you're in what you said there, if all of a sudden we're on a helicopter to the top of the mountain, well, great, I'm standing there, but how do I not know I'm going to make the wrong move or slip and then just tumble off and go sliding all the way down, right? Because it's like those people that have made a lot of money and they say, oh, they can lose it all. They can make a few bad deals, go bankrupt, lose it all, and within a year or two they'll be a multimillionaire again because they have the knowledge. They've learned
Yeah.
and they know what to do. If they were just handed $2 million and they made some bad business things, they lost it all. They don't have the knowledge to bounce back as quickly.
Yes, when you hike up that mountain, you know that if there's a slip, you know what to do. Because if you get to the top of the mountain by helicopter and there's a slip, you won't be prepared. So, yes, I agree with you. That's why they can bounce back so much better. And I always say there's never failure, it's just redirection. So there's never rejection, it's just redirection. No failure. It just the universe or whatever you want to call it said to you, look, you shouldn't be going down this path. I've taught you a couple
Mm.
lessons here, which will redirect you to better choices. And that's how I see it. I like to use the word redirection for anybody. If somebody hasn't
Mm.
gone down one path and it hasn't worked out, it's okay. Turn around and redirect yourself to another path.
I completely agree that I look at I don't like to use the word failures. I look at them as learning experiences
Mm.
because, there's always something we can learn, whether it's I definitely don't want to do that again, or what do I need to do differently, or what could I have done, and looking for ways to improve on that. So where are you now? We know that like where you're at, but what are you thinking? I know you're going to be there a little bit longer. What are your plans for the future?
Well, I mean, I've got a lot of things in the UK still to do. And the wonderful thing of what I do, it's really international, so I can pretty much go anywhere. At one time, I went to Dubai and absolutely loved it. And I thought, oh, I'll do something in Dubai because it's so, yeah, it's a really unique place, I think, Dubai. It's a bit like Marmite. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's very big
Right?
buildings, but I just found the ground quite spiritually connected to it, and I did like Dubai. I like heat. I'm a heat person. I mean, both of us, we're from Canada and we know how cold it gets, and I just prefer a little bit more warmth. So, I mean, Spain is really a leading contender. I still have a lot of things to, kind of settle up in the UK, and I will always be
Mhm.
part of the UK. But if I were a place to retire, it would definitely be Spain. But as an entrepreneur, do you ever really retire? I mean, I don't, I
I don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
I
And I
I
like
don't think
writing.
so.
I've got my book coming out, and I've got other books in the
Mhm.
pipeline that I've written, but I'm doing it one at a time. But yeah, just that's one of the thing about being international, especially like all my degrees are international. It's just learning a little bit more about the laws and regulations in those countries. And like you said, because you've been into so many countries and lived in so many places about businesses and stuff like that. And we
Mm.
touched base initially. It's just, setting up a business in another country is a whole sort of ball court that you really have to learn about. And, maybe I keep my business here, but then also be able to be flexible and, go and work in Spain, but still have the links to the UK market.
Absolutely. There's just so many options available, and which is great because I think people feel like they're more limited in their options, but there are so many. But then it's kind of a double-edged sword because there are so many that sometimes it can be overwhelming. And so we really kind of have to sit back and think like, I enjoy Spain. I've lived there for a long time. There's pros and cons to being there, like every other country in the world. There's pros and cons. I've been leaning a little bit towards Dubai. I was there
Hmm.
maybe about a month ago now. But I have a friend of mine who lives there, and she's traveled, and Dubai is her place. She's got an apartment there, settling down, residency. So I did spend a little bit of time there. And, again, pros and cons to Dubai. And so it really is to think about where we're at in life because at different stages, different countries work better for us depending upon where we're at and what we're doing. And so sometimes it is, I think, hard for me anyway to be like, oh, just one place, pick it, and that's kind of going to be even for, as we said, our quote retirement to say, oh, I'm just going to live here and that's going to be it. But um, and for those people who do, that's great. That's just not my personality. Like I would like to probably be starting to spend more time in one country and putting down more roots and things like that. But um, I don't foresee myself ever just settling in one country. I think for me, my ideal is probably, it's going to sound funny, but like three or four, to have a
Hmm.
place in three or four and spend the opposite 3 or 4 months there. And yeah, always being somewhere warm. That's very important for me. And just
It's very.
having, Mhm.
No, I was just going to point where you said it depends where you are in life.
Mm,
So I think also, when I left Canada when I was 22, I didn't have this long-term plan. I'm going to settle in England and set up loads of businesses. Never drawn in my mind. I left Canada, I went traveling around the world for 3 years and I met somebody, English at that time, and that pulled me towards England. So you're right. It depends what stage of life you're in. And I think, hopefully as you get older and you're matured, that you are more conscious of the decision of where you're going to stay. When you're young, you're just sort of like, oh, I'll just go wherever and not think of the
right.
consequences, or I'll do whatever and not think of the consequences. But I think as you get older, you just you look at a country and you say, okay, what benefits am I going to get from it being here, rather than just. But I do think you need some sort of structure or base that you can pop
Right.
in and out from.
Mhm.
I prefer that as I get older.
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, I'm looking at Dubai, but who knows? Next month I could meet somebody who lives or is from a country that I never thought of. And then I start to think, okay, maybe is that one an option? And looking at those things. And we need to think like I talk a lot about the weather because I hate winter and I really don't want to live someplace that's cold like Canada again. But we also have to think like geopolitically what it is like. What are the politics like? Um what are the different religious factors like? I mean, a lot of places are becoming more of what I call melting pots of culture and people and religions and things like that. But if I'm really against the politics or the religion or things like that, like I'm setting myself up for failure to go to a place that I'm not going to enjoy and like. And so those are all the things that are considerations of where we're going to live and to move to. And one of the things that I love about Dubai is how safe it is and how clean it is, and people are friendly there. Like I wasn't really sure what to expect. I find TV and the media makes it to see this like super rich, super like you have to have so much money there. And I mean, like any place in the world, the more money you have, the easier and more comfortable you live. That's any city, any country in the world. But I didn't find while I was there in Dubai that it was that over the top, superficial, super like extravagant everywhere. I thought it was a very nice, clean city. And yes, of course, there's some very expensive places and homes and boats, but same with New York, LA, Miami, like same thing within those cities as well. So I think, in my opinion, it's gotten a little bit of a overpriced reputation that it doesn't really deserve completely.
Yes, and I think, like you said, in any country, there's the rich zone and the poor zone, and I mean, if Dubai reflects that, you can thank their country's PR for that. But it is also at the same time like, well, I better not go there because I'm not very rich, which might put off people. But I think wonderful thing about this day and time now, this era we're in, it's not like you've got to be stuck in a job for 40 years in a certain country.
Right.
I know my father worked in a company for like 50 years and he was just there because there's so much more flexibility with the internet. So again, I have had a client who set up a remote workers company, which he's doing phenomenal. Like he is all over the world now. And that's the joy of where we are in this era, that you can work and live in any country you're on. Of course, if you do have crucial responsibilities like children and
Hmm.
animals, then you have to take measures in, if you do move to another country, what that will entitle. But again, you really can work anywhere. But like you said about religion, or at the moment we have Ramadan, which is
Yep.
quite a tradition and religion for many, or celebration for many people. And so you have to take that into account. Like, if you go to these countries and they celebrate Ramadan, are you willing to go to that sort of celebration and deal with that? And that, because I think they're all fasting at the moment, and then they can
Right.
eat in the evening.
Hmm.
So I think in Dubai they've got Ramadan. I know in
Yeah.
Kuwait and Iran and Iraq, I think they've got Ramadan there because we've got some clients there. But yeah, it's
Mm.
important to read the cultures in those, read the sort of traditions in those countries before you go there.
Right. Right. And I mean, and to me, that's also part of the experience. So, for example, just speaking with Ramadan, um, I don't know if I would do it the full time because it lasts, I think, about a month. It's quite
It
a while, and
does.
it's only eating
Yeah.
before sunrise and after sunset. And
I'd
I
be
mean, it
too
would be a
hungry.
great experience.
I'd be
It's
too hungry.
well, I've talked to people. They say the first few days are definitely the hardest, but once you get through that, and I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of in a way too, it's the mindset, right? It's the power of the
Hmm.
mind, and I think it's how we talk to ourselves too, because I'm not doing it right now, but before I was doing, I would do fasting and only eat starting at noonish and then not after 8, and then every Monday, I would just fast all day on Monday, and I found when I told myself, I can't eat today, I can't eat today, I can't eat today," I was so hungry, and the next week, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Monday's coming," and I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm fasting.
Yes.
I'm fasting today," and it didn't bother me,
Yeah.
and because I think if when I'm like, "I can't eat," then my brain is hearing, "Eat, eat, eat,"
I
right?
need McDonald's. It
And
is
so
true. It is true.
It's the way we say things and how we do, but I also think moving abroad and being aware of these things is to participate. It doesn't mean we have to fully participate. Like we celebrate Christmas in Canada. Not everybody does, but to respect that. Right? And if I'm in another place where they celebrate like Hanukkah or whatever else that I don't celebrate, like the Chinese New Year's, I'm always interested in that. I'm not a huge celebration fan, but I'm always like, oh, what year is it? Oh, that's cool. What does that mean? And it's just interested in those things. And we need to be, especially if we're going to be moving to those countries and having awareness and respect for different cultures.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, indeed. I agree with you. And it's just all like, and it's also being open-minded because I like yourself,
Mhm.
I love Chinese New Year's or Eid. Eid is another celebration. Or my neighbor, she's Hindi. So, she has a celebration and then we always swap. Like I bring her something at Christmas and she brings over when her celebration is for her culture. And I mean, like yourself, because we travel and we enjoy the different cultures, then I just sort of blend into that. I remember when I went to Thailand and there was like this big water fight for a couple of days, and I
Oh,
honestly didn't know it was some sort of celebration, but I didn't know it was happening because I was getting hit by water balloons, and I thought, what kind of celebration is this going on? But if you're open minded, again, when you're going to a certain country, you have to be prepared that there are different cultural traditions and if you can adapt to that, then it's a wonderful experience, I believe.
mm, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of the reason of going somewhere is the new things. Like it's nice to bring some of your traditions with you, but it does really bother me when somebody moves from one country to another. They don't want to incorporate their life into
Mm,
those new country traditions and festivities, but they want all their stuff from home. And they're like,
mm,
oh, well, we have this at home. We should be doing this. We should have this or that. And I've actually even looked at people and I said, then maybe you should go back home
mm.
if all of those things, you're missing and you're not wanting to participate in really anything in the new country, why are you there?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I'm not
you should
saying
really
don't bring any traditions, but you know, incorporate them at least.
completely. You should embrace it. I
Mm,
do believe it. I do like, in the UK, I don't know about every family, but
mhm.
my relatives here, would go to the pub on Christmas Eve and some not I don't think we went Christmas Day, but a lot of people went Christmas Day. And it's just not a cultural thing we would do in Canada, especially my parents
Right.
being European. So it's things like uh, fondue and at home go to midnight mass, that kind of thing. So
Right.
it's really really different
Hmm.
to adjust to that eventually. Like, I mean, I no longer went to the pub at Christmas Eve. Our traditions have changed a lot.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just things like that, which I tried it, I did it. It wasn't specifically for me, but then again, I brought over meatloaf, which none of my relatives here have ever had, and they absolutely loved it. Which is,
Right.
meatloaf's quite a big thing in Canada, I think
Yeah,
so.
it
And they
is.
never ever had it. And I was like, "What? Have you never had meatloaf? That's so weird." So, but yeah, it's an exchange of cultures, which is
Mm,
wonderful, and if you can mix them up and but I agree with you. Like if you're gonna go to, a different country and not want to embrace the cultures, and you can mix your culture in with their culture, but you need to, if you come in the UK, you have to have fish and chips. It's just a cultural thing here, and or if you go to Ireland, you must try Guinness or something like that. But it's really important. Um, I mean, learn about these things, and if you don't want to do it, then,
yes.
it's probably not the country for you.
That's right. I agree. And actually, the first time I ever had Guinness was in Ireland. I was
Ah,
there, and a guy's like, "Well, you're in Ireland. You have to have Guinness." And I said, "I've never had one before." He's like, "Well, now you absolutely have to." And it was when he said,
yeah,
for some people, the first one's not that good. He's like, "But you get through the first one, then you have a second one. It's better." I'm like,
yes.
"Yeah, I'm sure
Did
it's
you go
getting
to the
better. It's
Guinness?
not getting better. It's me not noticing as much."
Did you go to the Guinness factory when you
I
were in?
did.
Okay, yeah, very good,
I
very good.
did. Yeah. Yeah. It
Oh,
was
nice.
great. And yeah, it's all the new experiences and every country's going to have different experiences and also too the activities you like to do. I was just talking with somebody the other day who said they are completely into live music. They love jazz clubs. And so she said, we're looking to move, but it's got to be at least probably a mid-sized city to a big city because we like to do those things. If it's a small town that there's no live music going on, no jazz clubs or things like that. She's like, we're going to get bored and not like it. And so
Yeah,
it can be just even small things that we have to, um, make sure that the things we like to do are going to be there along with all the new experiences we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, if you decide to set up a business, I think we did touch on this already, but if you decide to set up, it's really important to understand the laws. And,
Yes.
I know like when you set up a business in America, there is the sole corp, the sole proprietorship, whereas in the UK, we have sole trader. And, the terminology is really
Mm.
different. There's the ENI number that you need in America, whereas in the UK you don't have that. So it's really important to understand the situation with setting up a business in the UK.
Absolutely, and also then knowing, a bit of the different tax laws, responsibilities, and those types of things are
Mm,
very important as well, um, depending upon which way people wanna go and what they're wanting to start and do, so
absolutely.
very good. And so if people we know that you have your book coming out. It's coming out in
Mm.
December, so it's still a little bit away, but I do know you're doing some promotional stuff for that. So if people are interested in your book and getting to know you more and the things that you're working on, where would be the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, perfect. So you can find me on our social media platforms, which is my personal page, also my author page, which is Nancy Steidl Author. And the book, yeah, as you mentioned, is coming out in December. And the book's fantastic because it is all about how to start a business no matter where you are in the world.
Mhm.
So that's a great thing. This is a very universal book. I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can find me under my name, Nancy Steidl. And then I've got my business pages, which my business is the business mission .com, the business mission on LinkedIn, the business mission on Facebook.
And I will make sure to add all of those links to the show notes to make things easy for everybody to get in touch with you. And Nancy, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners got a lot of valuable information from you.
Well, same with you, Sally. It's been an amazing conversation with you. And I do hope that, our conversation can educate other people out there, those people that are maybe new to traveling to different countries, what they may be embarked. Because I think if you can listen to advice from other people that have done it, then you can take that on board and go, okay, I didn't know that. And now I do know that. So thank you very much for having me on your podcast show as well. And I will probably bump into you somewhere in the world.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Thank you.